Are you listening?
This is the Rob Scott Show.
Damn.
I mean, really, like, if we're not trying to change the world, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So welcome to the Rob Scott Show. Here we are. Sarah, what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so let's talk about money today. Everybody's favorite topic.
Everybody's favorite topic. That's right. I'm not sure it should be everybody's favorite topic, but it is. It's the thing that we think is going to get us all the way there. Anything specific about money?
Yeah, I mean, there's many facets of money that we could talk about, and I'm sure that we will over the lifetime of the podcast. But let's talk about some of the stuff that our clients have been writing in about. We often hear people who come to us looking to do personal development work with Rob, and they're expressing that they have kind of a fear of scarcity, or they'd like their business to grow, or they don't feel like they're financially secure enough. And I kind of want to...
Yeah, let me say that differently. So there's money limits, right? People feel like there's something limiting their money, right? They feel like they should be more successful than they are. They feel... By the way, this is what I want to address today. That's a great topic to go into. Are there psychological blocks that slow us down from making as much money as we can make? And, hint, 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 yes, there are, right? There are very, very huge things that get patterned in to stop us from making as much money as we can make, et cetera. And so people can intuit that, right? It feels like, wow, this shouldn't be so hard. Why am I unable to save money? Why can't I invest money well? Why do I have a hard time doing my taxes on time and I have such a bad relationship with my money? What's going on there? And so one of the things that we ask people in the beginning is, do you think that you have money limits, right? Are there psychological money limits, or do you have a fear of money or anything going on like that? And people, more than almost any other thing, say, yes, I think I have money limits, right? I think there's something going on, or they'd like to break through their money limits. So is that...
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess on the other side, we also kind of ask people where they wish that they were, where they want to get to. And they often respond kind of in opposite by saying, I want financial abundance, I want financial freedom. So yeah. I definitely think this is a great topic to dive into.
So people are dying for the automatic button of how to make a lot of money, et cetera, right? So I think one thing that you've mentioned to me before that I know you want to talk about is this idea of fear of success, right? So can we maybe anchor it in around that as well? Right.
Yeah.
So first off, you didn't think that was a real thing when you first heard me say it, right? Did it sound kind of silly?
I don't often suffer from that,
right.
But yes.
Yeah, and it seems odd, right? So fear of failure seems more normal or natural, right? If we think about that, if you say, are you afraid to fail? I mean, none of us want to maybe admit we're afraid of anything, right? We'd love to feel
sure.
But it's more natural to go, yeah, I don't like failing. Of course I would fear that. I don't want to fail in front of people I know. And so some of our blocks to that leads to procrastination and our behavior and that kind of stuff, fear of failure comes up as obvious to people. And what might be more, subversive and quiet and private that people aren't even aware that they really have is that it's a legitimate thing that we have fear of success. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? I totally want success. But unconsciously, oftentimes we are really not set up to be huge and big. And so one of the funny tests that I do with people, and whoever's listening can check this out right now, is if I ask you okay, how much, think of how much money that you make right now. Right. And if you're an entrepreneur, you may not know an exact amount, but give a round number. If you know your salary, right? What is your salary? And then I say to you, okay, how much money do you want to make? Right. Pick that number. And so let's give examples. Somebody might come in and they have a salary of $75,000. And then I go, well, how much money would you like to make? And they might say, I'd really like to make six figures. That's the thing. And so for them, they'd like to go from 75 to 100. Or they might say, you know what? I really want to make $250,000 a year. That's the thing. And so I go okay, but why did you pick that? Right? So let's go with that first person. Why did you pick six figures? What is it about six figures that feels like that is success and 75 isn't? Or, make that spread bigger. 50,000. Okay, I want to make 100,000. Great. That's double. That's a huge increase. And I get it. That's a game changer for many people. Okay. But why is it 100? I just asked you, you could make any amount, right? So to answer me, you had to make it real. You had to make it realistic. It had to feel achievable to you, et cetera. There are some people that if you told them they were going to make $100,000 this year, they would be like deeply offended. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm going to make $10 million this year, or I'm going to make $1 million this month. Like what are you talking about? That's so low for me. And so when people come in, what you don't realize is you have a certain kind of default expectation of what you think you deserve, what you think it's a proper amount to make, what success means to you, et cetera. And all of these things have been set unconsciously for you, right? Now, I realize we opened up talking about fear of success, and I'm not addressing that yet. But what I want to talk about is there are these mechanisms that leave us unconsciously stuck in what I would call like a glass ceiling of what's okay.
I was thinking that money ceiling.
Right? It's like it's your money ceiling. So, and if you don't challenge that, or if you don't normalize or open yourself up to maybe making more and doing that, then you're going to be playing this game that's in a very small range. And even if you win, actually, if you make 75 and you change to 100, that's not a game changer, actually. Like, well, I would do all these things. No, your preferences would expand to that, and you'd feel just as poor as you were probably at the 75. Now, there is, this is like a popular thing out there, there is a certain amount of money that absolutely affects our happiness or not. Like if you make no money, or you don't make enough money to live, or your legitimate bills of survival are more than what you're making, that is a humongous stressor. And so money is a deeply important thing to make to a certain level in our culture today. And you and I will probably have deeper conversations about money as a belief system and all these different things.
Sure.
Maybe today, maybe another time. But I want to honor the fact that like at some level, we do have to make a certain amount of money. And if we do, we actually feel way more, okay, I can survive.
A sigh of relief.
I can pay for more fun things. But then we do know, and I think it's in our culture about $70,000 or $75,000, that once you make that or more, there's not much difference actually in satisfaction and personal happiness. And everybody's going to not believe me right now. But if you make, $150,000 or you make $500,000, the difference in happiness, it doesn't track with how much more money that is, right? There's very little difference because you now make enough. And so for those people, life often becomes more about purpose or something, something else, right? Again, maybe a different conversation. But when we come back to, if somebody checked in and when I asked you, how much more money do you want to make? Why are you picking the number that you pick and not 10 times that? Or why not, I want to just make so much money, like I don't know what to do with myself and all that stuff, because that might be mapped for you as obscene. Your parents might have told you, wealthy people aren't respectful, right? We end up with these familial meanings about money from when we're young. And many of us want money, but rich people are jerks, right? Or we want money, but having money causes too many problems and there's too many things to manage about that and all that. And so now we're getting closer to the fear of success. There's also the tall poppy syndrome, right? Breaking up from your family of origin and what's okay for them can be really, really difficult for people. So if your parents are a certain level of success, you wildly going beyond that may unconsciously not really be okay for your brain, for your system, right? And so ultimately, we have to figure out all these and navigate them so that we can heal them, because many people are actually set to where I'm supposed to be poor because that's noble, because that's what, maybe that's what Jesus was like, or your money's actually bad. It makes you, so we actually feel better. We feel like, a better, more valued human being if we're suffering and if we're kind of the underdog and if we're not one of those wealthy, selfish people, et cetera, right? So people have all these unconscious meanings about money that lead to real difficult times when it's actually
definitely
and do that, right? So,
and we do, we kind of do dig deeper into kind of the limiting and the limits, money limits, and the beliefs about that kind of in our work. But kind of what I want to look at with you today, along with that kind of fear of success, because that, it's kind of an opposite to fear of failure, right? Yeah. It's kind of how money is both a motivator and a demotivator. And it's so central. Like we have money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't make you, you can't buy happiness. Like there's so much of kind of the beliefs and kind of our culture that's structured around this thing. And then we hear it echoed back in the people that are working with us. I don't have enough, but I want it. And so just kind of digging into that.
Yeah. So I did kind of foreshadow the fear of success thing in a couple ways. And there's a lot there, right? So one thing about fear of success is that tall poppy thing, right? If all of a sudden, if I become too successful, my friends won't like me as much, right? Or my family won't accept me or whatever. So that could lead to an unconscious actual fear of success. That if I actually do go do that big business deal and I make a ton of money, maybe I won't know what to do with all that money. Maybe I won't know how to manage it. Maybe I think it was Biggie Smalls who said, more money, more problems, right? So, and there's a legitimate thing to that. So let's say you're running a business and you make $100,000 a year and you're a solopreneur, and it's the business is not on autopilot. You're not just kicking back. You haven't gotten the freedom lifestyle yet, and you're sustaining yourself and you make great money. For you, you're doing okay, but you're killing yourself doing it. You're working 80-hour weeks, and you're starting to resent it, right? It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you tell that person, we're going to grow your business to $1 million, that might be like, no, we're not. Like, I'm deathly afraid of that because I'm killing myself at this level. And when I'm saying this might be conscious, but it might be unconscious. And so you may not do the big marketing move that's going to get you tons more clients. You may not know how to break up with the patterns of how you're delivering your business now to really switch over to something that can scale and can get huge. And ultimately you feel overwhelmed, totally stuck and all that. And what the root of it is, which is not obvious, because what is obvious is your frustration and your overwhelm and, God, I'm not sure maybe I should go get a job. This running a business thing is really difficult and all that, is actually at the core of it is you've mapped out that success equals really difficult work, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to be more successful because I can't work any harder than this. I'm not even spending enough time with my kids or whatever this stuff is, right? So while there's somebody on the other side of that with fear of failure who's afraid to fail in front of other people, or maybe there's a deeper psychological thing, and it's probably another talk, but with fear of failure, you have kind of a sense of who you're pretending to be to yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you were to fail, it would kind of prove even to you and to others that that's not really who you are, that you're not as good as you kind of say your potential could be. And so you end up not playing. And that's a real form of fear of failure. Well, fear of success is, I don't want to play because if I have success, people may not like me. This may become too complex for me. I like my level of significance and I like my comfort zone.
Right, the comfort zone.
And all of a sudden now I'm going to be dipping my toe into a place that's foreign to me. I may have to take on new friends that I don't really like, all that stuff, right? And so ultimately that can be mapped in unconsciously. And when you start to feel into, oh yeah, I do feel really overwhelmed by my work, maybe that's why I'm not really scaling and doing these things. And the first step might be to kind of simplify what you do and figure out other things. But ultimately that can lead to real limits about what you can actually make in your money, et cetera.
Yeah. And I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but thinking about specifically the fear of success, you just went through talking about how if you work hard, people relate work and money to together, time and money together, all that kind of thing. There's a show that people who win the lottery, right, who didn't have to work very hard, all of a sudden they get a ton of money, and how that kind of ruins their life. And I wonder if there's a level of self-sabotage for people who are carrying a fear of success and then become an overnight, maybe it's an overnight sensation or something goes viral. It doesn't have to be the lottery, but where there's a lot of success or money or fame so fast, and how that kind of almost dissolves you. You just don't know what to do.
It's so that's a really great point, and there's a lot of stuff in there that I could dive into. One of the important things to understand is that we do need practices about money, right? So let's just legitimize to some degree the fear of success. That is a protection mechanism that could be keeping you the same. If you really want to change, we have to address it. But also with somebody with the lottery, they don't have the habits and practices of what a wealthy, their identity isn't, I am a wealthy person, right? Mm. They don't know what that is. They don't have the practices of a wealthy person. They're not saving and investing. They don't know how to protect their money. They don't know how to do all these things. And as I'm saying this to certain people that might want to be wealthy, it might make you nervous because you're like, oh, I don't know those things either. I'm not doing them, right? So before you're wealthy, the habits of respecting money and having a good relationship with money, right? If you think about money as if I'm a guy, a girlfriend, right? Or somebody that I want to do. If I'm not paying attention to my money, I'm not managing it, I'm not doing my bookkeeping, I'm not looking at, I'm not being grateful for it. It's just kind of this difficult thing that kind of fuels my life or whatever. How do you think the energy of money, and I'm being silly and a little facetious here, but how do you think the energy of money is going to feel about me? right? Like a girlfriend that I'm not paying any attention to. My money's going to go away, right? But if I actually give it care and attention, I build my habits, I actually pay myself first, which is one of the, if you take anything actionable away from this, go save 10% of everything you make first. Pay yourself first. Have this self-respect to pay yourself first, and just don't go into that. Live off the 90%, the rest of it, which your life will not change at all. Like your life will completely adjust to doing that.
Right.
You'll be actually growing wealth that will one day be giving off enough money so that you'll truly have financial freedom, right? That's right. Kind of what that game is about. Yet we don't build those habits, right? We don't have enough because I'm not making enough. I couldn't possibly do that. I'll do that when I'm wealthy, right?
Right.
But when you're then wealthy, and we show this with people who get lotto money, now you don't have any of those habits. It's almost like if somebody was to go in and get all this liposuction and really take a ton of fat off of their body, but they never learned how to actually exercise and eat well and do whatever, they immediately go get out of shape again, right? Like what's the habit underneath? So the process of having more money, instead of just wanting money, which actually puts us away from money, right? Wanting money is this, it's not the feeling of having it and being grateful for money and having that kind of relationship with it. It's actually, I desire something I don't have. So it's actually this very negative way of feeling about it. But instead, if we're actually like, wow, I love the money I have, I've got a great relationship with it, I really save all that. Those are the things to do first. And now as you're growing, you're stepping into habits where you can actually have, right, more money thrown at you because you have the capacity, the container, the maturity to deal with it, right? So it's like we need to build our money skills if we really want to grow a lot of money, rather than just kind of wishing for it, hoping it comes, etc. And the other thing there is that wish of like, one day I'll just get a lot of money and then I'll be okay, is we're still not building the satisfaction muscles and all the things in our body.
Right. And I think we land on that hard because, I mean, ask anybody, do you want to win the lottery? Of course, they're going to say yes.
Absolutely.
Hey, do you want to start saving 10% of your money? They're going to be like, a lot less people are going to say yes. But they correlate. And so it's the really finding that satisfaction of appreciating what you have to feel, quote unquote, wealthy, successful, free, beyond looking at like numbers and dollar amounts.
Well, let's do a little identity stuff for a second, right? So what's at the core of that is, if you have the identity of I want to be wealthy, that is not wealthy, right? That is actually the opposite. So what your mind is set up to kind of talk to you and think about and be, if your sense of self is, I am not that yet, I want to be that, you're literally pushing that thing away from you. Right. So instead of, and I'm not talking about becoming a fiction, I'm not talking about lying to yourself or lying to other people about what you have or any of that. But if you can actually say, I love the money that I do have, and actually think about, what do wealthy people do? Like real, I don't mean ballers that are just wasting and have some huge record contract. I'm talking about people that really are good with money and have money and like are truly wealthy. What does that look like? Well, they care about their money. And I don't mean a sick love affair. I don't mean they're making it more of a focus than it should be, but there's a respect for what it is. There's a management of it. There's an understanding of it. And hopefully, if they're healthy as wealthy people, and what I would call wealth is also like a real emotional wealth, which is they're grateful for what they have. And they actually are like, because if you think about why you want to be wealthy, what's really underneath that is you want to have the freedom of it. You want to be able to buy the things, of course, but you want to have those feelings, right? You want to feel like, man, I feel free. I feel safe. I feel proud. I feel all these great feelings, right? So adding money to an identity that doesn't feel proud, doesn't feel happy, doesn't have the money habits, doesn't have any of that, you're going to be that lottery winner. And that's what is a legitimate like fear of success is kind of speaking to you. But what needs to change before the money changes is you. Like you need to shift, right? You need to shift your behaviors, your feelings, and how you think about money. And when you do that, that's actually the person that will build wealth, because now you actually are a wealthy person who's just beginning to accumulate money and really grow your situation. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And it's very interesting, because I feel like we're pointing at an area of it that is really kind of where it all pivots on, but often people blow past it, including myself, right? Because we're just like, oh no, if I had X, like we want to make it tangible, and if I had this, but there's also that idea of, if you don't embody it, if it's not who you are, it doesn't matter. We can give you $1 million, we can give you $10 million. You're going to feel like there's still more waiting for you.
Yeah, let's do that in reverse. If you take a person who really is a wealthy person and you take away all their money, they will go make more money again.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a person who's not a wealthy person and let them win the lottery, almost universally, they go back to being a poor person, right? So the thing that's at the root of that is being the wealthy person underneath, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then the money is a reflection of that. There's another thing too, and this might be for another talk in more depth, but we think we want the paper or the value or that thing. And actually money is a value. Like it's a value store. And there's another way to talk about it where it's actually debt, right? It's a debt somewhere, which is maybe a flaw in our system of how we're doing.
Just one? There's just one flaw?
Well, it's a big one. It's a big kind of foundational flaw. But thinking about money as a value exchange, right? And as you're getting money, sort of capturing that value exchange instead of expressing it right in this moment by giving that value exchange out for something now, I'm actually going to hold on to it and build my wealth in a sense, right? That gives us, security, actual money. It starts to kick off money so it can pay us kind of more passively, et cetera. But the mindset of how do I go create more value? Because if I create value for somebody, that's what they're going to pay me for, right? Rather than how can I get money? It's like, how can I actually give out and do valuable things for people? Whether that's be a better employee, add more value at my job, get a different job where I'm more valuable to the company, or if you're a business owner in any way, how can I affect more people where they're happy to take the value from me and give me money for it, right?
Right.
I think the mindset of lack of I need more is very me focused. And if we were to shift our attention to how can I help more? How can I do more valuable things? That's another way that drives more money to us as well.
Yeah, two of the kind of solutions that I hear that you're offering around the idea of money limits or money ceiling sounds like maybe delayed gratification kind of plays a role as well as being grateful. But it's interesting because it is really important, but I don't often associate money and the ability to, hold on to your wealth, save or hold on to value in some way. I don't think of delayed gratification right away, but it came up when you were just saying.
Yeah, and that's a whole delayed gratification is a huge. It's a huge human muscle that we want to figure out, right? Because what's the opposite of that is immediate gratification, which is very hedonistic. And there's something really attractive to that. Like if I had the infinite supply of money, I could just be hedonistic and immediately do gratifying things. So, be the baller, like do Vegas, get the girls, drink the drink, do the drugs, do all the things, right? And there'd be no problem because I have this endless supply of cash behind me. Well, as we mature, we realize that's absurd because no matter how much you have, it can all, go away if you're acting that way. But there's also not deep satisfaction in that. There is immediate gratification. But there's that becomes empty. So the people that do have access to that very often and very quickly will go, okay, yeah, I've had all that fun, but like, what's the point, right? And so when we are talking about delaying gratification, there's a little bit of like self-respect. There's, self-control. We start to really admire ourselves, and also that focus going away from me and how can I feel better too? How can I help others? How can I do things? That maps to like purpose and all these things. And as we grow up and we have a delayed gratification muscle that's bigger and more okay, we can help ourselves over time in deeper ways. And I know we're going to talk about that more in another episode.
It makes me think of like when you're younger and you really wanted a toy or a book or something, and you're like, well, that's like 8 allowances, and you're checking it off, like, and you're counting your what's in your piggy bank. And then as an adult, if you're functional and you have a salary and you're healthy, you can generally go out and buy a toy for yourself. But it's never as good as that, when you saved your allowance for 6 months and then you finally got that one thing and then you loved that one thing. And maybe you even have it somewhere in your closet still because it's a symbol of like, you worked for it. You felt the satisfaction, and it wasn't about the thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you could have bought 10 of them as an adult.
Yeah.
But it was just about that kind of ability to appreciate and a value, not money, but value.
Yeah, totally.
And wait for something. So
I love it. So we went a lot of places. There's definite money limits, right? That's a real thing. And really check in with yourself and see if your own intuition tells you that you are unconsciously kind of held back. And that can look like fear of failure. It can definitely look like fear of success. You could just have kind of a normalized, my best friend is somebody, when I used to talk to him about houses, he just thought houses cost $100,000. When he grew up, that's like what they cost around him. And then he was looking to go buy a house as an adult, and everything, like just an average house, I think where he was buying was like 250 or 3, right? And he's just like, these are so expensive. I'm like, no, that's just what they cut. Like it's a relative,
Right.
but houses are this, right? And he had a different value, and he was kind of programmed to think in different numbers. And that itself can, think of that moving over to like what he thought a good salary is, right? Or a proper salary. So again, I think,
or what he was deserving of,
or what he was deserving of, right? Deserving is a whole nother thing, right? Self-love. And no, but it really maps to this. I mean, we could absolutely get into it, but if you don't feel that you're good enough to deserve it, or you have this, right? There's plenty of us out there that are feeling like, I'm a bad person, or I really don't deserve this, or whatever. And that's going to keep you stuck as well. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of the psychological things underneath that drive this, right? We got into fear of success, that tall poppy syndrome, that, oh my God, maybe it'll be too complex, et cetera. What else did we talk about? I mean, there's...
and we talked about satisfaction and value, and building good habits around your money, and having the identity of someone who is financially mature, we'll say.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, really is mapping back to the work that we do. The shortest path to fixing all of this stuff is really thinking about shifting your identity, right? And so if somebody wants to try on their own to do that, it is really starting to take on, what would someone with money do now and be now, even in my current situation? Like, how would they deal with the debt they have? How would they, what are the new habits they would bring in? And then be that, right? In your thinking, your feeling, and your behaving. And then, not to always kind of pitch what we do, but that's what we do in identity shifting, right? In the mastermind that we run. And so if anybody's interested in that, you can always check out identityshifting.com and go apply. But
we look at money limits in our Recode course too. We specifically
totally.
It's definitely a real thing, but it's not always as cut and dry as we think it is.
Yeah, and it's sometimes hard for us to see it ourselves, and that's why we'd want to go get help with it and all that. So anyway, hope this has been valuable. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in again. Please like, subscribe, follow us, chat, get at us. We'll get back to you in the comments on whatever platform you find this on.
Find us on YouTube. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Google Play. So we can't wait.
Yeah, awesome.
Can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Bye.